Let's talk about locks. Locks are freaking amazing. They're so beautiful, but they're a big commitment. And if you don't really understand the human hair growth cycle and the way that the skin cell turnover cycle happens, you may end up balding and losing locks a lot faster than normal. So if you want to get deeper into it, then keep watching. Before we get started, make sure you go ahead and subscribe here to my channel and then click on that bell notification so you're notified every time I post another video. Now, when we are talking about locks, I know it is a touchy subject because locks is something that you get when you are ready to make a big commitment. Locks is not something that you do when you are just like, oh, I don't feel like doing anything to my hair and I want zero responsibility. Locks is not one of those things that you do. Let's get into locks and why some people start too thin. Now, when we're talking about locks, what you are actually doing is you're holding on to all of the hair that you shed. For a lot of people, it is a spiritual experience. A lot of people do it for a lot of different reasons. So we're not getting into that, right? I'm not getting into that. But what we're going to do is just talk about scientifically what is happening when you get locks and what leads to thinning and balding. Okay, the average person loses anywhere between 50 and 150 strands every single day. When you're locking your hair, what you are doing is holding on to every single hair that sheds. That is what you're doing when you're locking your hair. For that reason, your hair gets heavier and heavier and heavier every day that goes by. You never shed hair. So for one, it's really, really important that when you get locks, you go to somebody who knows what they're doing. And it may seem really, really easy and really simplistic just to put your hair in a bunch of little parts and that's it, but it's not that simple. It's really important that you go to somebody who understands the curvature of your head and understands where locks should lay, because the older you get, your body starts to do different things. There's something called DHT, and everybody has testosterone, male and female, but the older you get, the testosterone begins to convert into DHT. Now, this can happen in two ways. It can happen through hormonal changes with old age, or it can happen from stress. And when you are stressed, your body releases a hormone called cortisol, and when you get stressed out, that hormone ends up converting that testosterone into DHT, and it attacks the hair follicle, resulting in hair follicle miniaturization, meaning your hair follicle will go from having having anywhere between 3 to 4 strands to 1 strand, until eventually there's no hair there, right? So that is one factor. And then a lot of times, don't get mad at me when I say this, this is why I don't want to get into this. When you look across social media and you look at different videos from different locticians and different people that have locks, you see videos like this where people have severe forms of seborrheic dermatitis, right, and severe forms of psoriasis, and everybody just equates that to dandruff. You just equate it to dry scalp and you start scraping it up. Well, these are two problems, and a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, but test me. The next time you have a scab in your head and the next time you pick it, right, look at it, and you're going to see that there's a very, very small hair, like a very, very short hair attached to the scab that you pick out of your scalp. And that's something that a lot of people don't really realize. Whenever you are scraping, right, a lot of people that have locks will notice that they get a whole lot of dandruff, they'll get a whole lot of flakes, and you'll go to a loctician that'll get this tool and just start scraping, going crazy. But then after they scrape, they'll then go back and follow up with an oil, and it's crazy when you really know scientifically what's going on, because what you're looking at on the screen right now is a severe form of seborrheic dermatitis. Seborrheic dermatitis is when you have an overproduction of sebum, and this overproduction of sebum is causing stress, like it's causing your hair follicle to get stressed, and it's sending signals out for the hair shaft, the skin on the skin on your scalp to die off faster than normal, because the average skin cell the average skin cell turnover cycle is every 28 days. But if it's thrown off balance through stress or anything, right, then what happens is it starts turning over faster than every 28 days. When you have seborrheic dermatitis, instead of you turning over new hair growth cells, dead skin cells, instead of you turning them over every 28 days, it's happening every other day or every 2 days or every 4 days. And this is what is happening on a head like this. So naturally, the first thing you want to do is remove it. But what you're really doing when you remove it, my love, is removing skin. You're removing hair, right? You're removing follicles. You're removing healthy follicles. And when you remove those dead skin cells and then you double back with oil, you're literally just, it's almost the equivalent to going in, like if you are a gardener and you go down and you go down the aisle and you pull a whole bunch of weeds and then you put down food for fertilizer for new plants to grow. That's the equivalent of what you do when you oil the scalp after you scratch the dandruff off, or this what you call dandruff, but after you scratch the dry scalp off and you put more oil on. This is why the dandruff will never go away, because the thing that was causing the dandruff, the things that was causing all of those all of those dead skin cells to show themselves was the overproduction of oil. So to add more oil is just going to mess things up. And then on top of that, most people get a little bit confused and they're like, oh, there's not a bacteria, there's a yeast. There is a yeast and there's a bacteria that lives within the follicle. Your body is a city. And all of bacteria's favorite food is oil. This is why oils and butters never go on the scalp. I love you guys so much, and I know that is something that's really, really hard to receive, but a lot of times in my experience, that is why through the years, the more time goes by, most people with locks end up losing hair. Because again, the locks are really, really heavy, and then y'all not gonna hear this either, a lot of people who have locks use like apple cider vinegar rinses and baking soda and things of that nature. Well, your hair is a fiber, so if you soak any fiber in apple cider vinegar, over time that fiber is going to get weaker and weaker and weaker. And a lot of times, like when people have locks, you'll say like, oh well, I only do it every once a year, but it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter that you only do it once a year, because you only have to use apple cider vinegar. You only have to put an acid on a fiber one time for it to make that fiber weaker and for it to make that fiber start to deteriorate. So when you have the weight on the follicle, plus you're adding acids to the hair that slowly weaken the strand, right? The strand that already is holding, that a strand that is already getting 55 to 100 strands every single day added to it. And then on top of that, you're like scraping the scalp and oiling the scalp. Over time, it ends up just causing, not a loctician, locks are not my specialty as it pertains to like styling them and things of that nature, but I used to have clients that had locks and would treat their hair all the time, because the human scalp is the human scalp regardless of how you decide to style it. The way that you decide to style your hair is just the way that you've decided to keep up with your maintenance. And the thing is, if you're a person who wants low maintenance styles, right, you don't want to have to do anything, a wash and go or a twist out isn't the thing to do. When we're talking about locks, the reason why people with locks, their locks are so beautiful, they grow so long, and a lot of times if they kept their locks together right and they weren't soaking their hair in apple cider vinegar and all of that, whenever they get ready, they can comb their locks out, and for the most part their hair is pretty healthy. Why? Because their hair has been stretched for years, just holding on to the old hair, and that old hair has been casing itself around their hair strand, making it stronger, right? There are locticians out there who are like, no, don't put no oil on the scalp, don't put no butter on the scalp, no gel, no oils, no nothing. I know locticians that I learned from, that the only thing that they recommend for their clients to do is shampoo the hair, and then after they shampoo the hair, what they do, if their client's scalp feels like dirty or oily, they recommend that their clients cleanse the scalp with either rose water or witch hazel, but never like apple cider vinegar and things of that nature. I know a lot of locticians do it, and that's fine. I'm not telling nobody what to do. I'm just telling you what the things that you do lead to, because do your own research. Apple cider vinegar is a vegetable acid. It is a acid, okay? It has no nutritional value, and that's why it's so good at breaking things down, because it is an acid. But the thing is, yes, it's breaking down the different bacteria and things in your scalp, and it's removing stuff, but I need you to understand that it's also weakening the hair shaft. Even though it doesn't break down the hair shaft at that moment, it weakens it, and over time the hair shaft gets weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. So these are all things that do contribute to having thinning locks, and your locks are being really unhealthy. So make sure that you are just keeping it simple. I think that one thing that really confuses people is because over the last however many years all of this stuff has been going on with hair products, it confuses everybody, and it makes everybody think that when it comes to hair, it's just everybody has this long drawn out thing that they have to do, to the point where when you tell somebody the actual routine that they should follow, and it's so simplistic, it's really hard for a lot of people to accept. If you have locks, the only thing you need to do is shampoo your locks, add conditioner to your locks, not your actual scalp, right? And then after that, just go head on about your business. You don't need to add a whole bunch of products to your hair or anything. And then in between your wash days, if your scalp is feeling dirty or oily or itchy or anything like that, and you don't need to wash, and you don't want to wash, and you just want to get yourself through a couple of days, then after you wash your hair, let's say you want to like style it or twist it, you guys, you don't have to use a whole bunch of oils and butters and cream. You can get you a foam wrap. A foam is going to be light, it's non-comedogenic, so it's not going to block the pores or the follicles, and you can get a little bit of foam. Twist the locks that need to be retwisted, sit under the dryer, keep it moving. Minimum product. Try to keep products, and especially oils and butters, off of the scalp. You guys, if you need help tracking your skin cell turnover cycle, or if you need more help just structuring a schedule, then join my 7-day challenge. If you feel like you have it all figured out, again, just follow the simple steps that I just told you, and you will be okay. But the more product you use on locks, the more at risk you are at the locks thinning, because you're already gaining a new set of anywhere between 50 and 155 strands of hair every single day. So the last thing you want to do is make the hair shaft heavier with products, okay? The last thing you want to do is put oils and butters into a follicle that already has to hold on that much weight. All right, keep it really simple, keep it really simplistic. And again, I'm not telling you what to do. You can do whatever you want to do, girl. But when stuff start happening and you keep doing it your way, just come back and watch the video, because I help you. The 7-day challenge will still be here when you get ready.